Welcome everyone. I'll immediately jump into the presentation, if you don't mind. Blockchain, when you talk about blockchain, people think about ICOs and token sales, but the story is more than that. But to be complete, I'll start my presentation about the capital being raised through token sales, just to illustrate how the momentum is still there in terms of investment for blockchain companies. If you look at the numbers for the first quarter of 2018, it's still very growing and high, and to date about $14.2 billion has been raised for blockchain companies through token sales. Also, when you look at VC investment in blockchain startups, the momentum is still very strong. Already in 2018, we reached 40% of the amount that was raised in 2017. Now, when you look at the enterprise or corporate level, we do know that financial firms started very early with blockchain, some as early as 2014. So they have been working on blockchain projects for quite a number of years now, and with knowledge building up. So where are we now? Are we seeing any interesting rollouts? What is the scene over there? Well, the picture is a bit nuanced. We're still testing, learning, experimenting, but slowly the technology and the projects are coming of age. According to the analysts of Credit Suisse, we will see mass adoption by 2025. Well, they have a nice crystal ball, but I think we can only agree that we are in a learning phase, and it will take further time to explore the technology. A recent research paper actually concluded that only about 8% of the projects that started using blockchain technology actually made it to the next phase, or with all the others being abandoned or just reoriented. But you're at the right moment. According to Todd McDonald, the head of the Corda or R3 consortium, one of the leading consortiums in the financial industry, 2018 is the year of production. We have learned our lessons. Now let's start getting serious and go for live launches. Gartner, however, is a bit more nuanced. They say, well, we're still learning. They refer to irrational exuberance. We've heard that term before. But they emphasize that blockchain is not just a technology, but it's also a question of business disruption. And it's essentially a challenge of evaluating where the technology can be applied, where does it make sense, and where does it add less value. Recent gathering of the World Economic Forum signaled still a lot of questions and confusion about the use of blockchain technology, where can it be applied, and different private sector leaders still expressed the need for clarity and further learning curves. However, the overall conclusion is that blockchain technology, or DLT, for the ones in the know, distributed ledger technology in general, it's more than just technology, because of the nature of the technology. You have to also look at how the business processes will be redesigned. You have to look also how the stakeholders are to be aligned in the new business model. So it's not just a question of having more efficient technology, it's also the whole business aspects that you have to look at. 1% of the respondents in the recent Gartner survey admitted that or professed that they have some kind of blockchain adoption. Obviously, we want to have that number much larger in the future. When you look at the use cases that have the high potential of being adopted, or where the value of blockchain can be more appropriate. So, thank you. In fact, the conclusion of the industry is you have to look at a number of elements, and the World Economic Forum recently came up with a framework to help you with that. It refers to having a shared repository. It refers to having multiple writers, but it also refers to minimal trust and intermediaries. Interesting enough, although people often refer to blockchain as the technology to eliminate or to replace trust, in fact, you still need a central gatekeeper in the system to preserve trust with the connected parties, and to make sure that quality goes in and not any lesser criteria. If you look at the recent rollouts, where do we see already first steps of going into production? Trade finance is an interesting case. We see a number of initiatives around the world where in fact trade finance is going into production. We see it in India with ICIC Bank, but closer to home we also see it with the WeTrade platform, where KBC is one of the initiators. Also in terms of payments, we now see Santander, for example. They recently launched a payment service based on blockchain. It's their first production rollout of blockchain after so many years of experiments. And they're rolling it out in 4 different countries. Also in the fund management industry, blockchain is taking up. For example, there is the Settle platform being used by a number of asset managers in France, but we see similar initiatives also in Luxembourg, for example. And last but not least, an interesting case is KYC, where we have been very active lately, together with our partners, and my friend Astianax from Norblock will tell you a lot more about it later on this evening. Thank you.